welcome. Job security versus a bigger remuneration. Often a government versus corporate sector debate comes down to this. But I'm sure that you believe, like me, that there is more to this. That's, of course, our big debate today. Joining me, Smriti and Anushka, and our expert, Usha Alvarkar. Thanks all for coming in. Smriti, I'll let you have the first word because you are voting for a government job. Your time starts now.
See, personally, I will go for a government job because of the reason of job security. I can work freely without the fear of being fired away any time. And then, like when we consider civil services, there is this respect you have in the society. And then there are fixed promotions in government job and perks and privileges. And then after retirement also, you live a very good life. You lead a very good life. And then in government jobs, there are efficient people who come up. Like for civil services, you prepare so hard, and for every other government job, you have to work so hard, study so hard, and then when you get into that, they will make you go and they'll make you go under rigorous training, and then you will go to areas, reach out to people, you become more experienced, and then you know how to start up with things. So in this way, government officials, workers are very efficient, and there is dearness allowance also which comes into account every year. The pay of government employees, it goes higher,
right.
According to the inflation thing.
Right. Your time's up. I'm going to revisit that with you in just a bit. Before I get ma'am in, Anushka, you believe that you'd vote for a private sector job. Why is that?
The main reason why people go for a private sector job is the higher salary that they receive than a government job person who receives a almost half of the salary than a private sector. Then, as she said, the job security. I don't personally believe that there's an issue of the job security, because if you work hard and you get paid well, job security doesn't count into. And then respect. As she said, that the IS people, they get the respect. Even a person working in a multinational company earns a lot of respect. It's a worldwide recognition that they receive. Then they get a lot of exposure, that going on field works, and so they develop much better skills than a person working in a government job, because in a government job they just continue doing the same work repeatedly.
Right. So you're saying that it is perhaps repetitive, that's your understanding of it. Well, someone who's sort of tested both waters, as it were, is of course ma'am. She's been there, done that. So how do you see this, ma'am? This has of course been an age-old debate and it's not going anywhere.
It is, but I think there are certain changes in the current scenario. Government jobs always were good for certain reasons, like job security primarily, but today they are reducing in number. The competition is far more acute to get into a government job, and there are only certain jobs which have the kind of respect and the prestige that most students are looking for. It could be the defense services, the IAS, or railways, or particular kind of things.
Right.
But by and large, the large number of just clerical people that fill our government offices are really doing no work. So I would say that there is now, on the other side, you look at a private sector job, if they do no work, they don't get paid, so everybody works. It becomes like an incentive. And to that extent, the private sector is able to garner much more of the talent
right.
and make use of it than in a government area. And specifically, I would say the job security is actually a handicap. The moment you have job security, you're not working at your peak, because you're working towards looking at, irrespective of what I do, I will not lose my job.
Right.
And therefore, there are certain things that go against wanting to rock the boat on certain issues. So I would say, while there are things to be said to both, the private sector, in fact, for large number of students, is far more attractive.
Right.
And when I see young people today, they are much more willing to try out private sector jobs, not only for the high salary and the perks, but because they feel, I have a certain talent, I will get exposure for it, I will have a better working environment, I will be able to
challenge of it.
Challenge of that, And irrespective of the job security, it is what I do and what I'm able to build up.
Right.
That is the security I have.
Right.
It's the skills and the learning I have,
Right.
not necessarily having it in a government job.
Smriti, respond to that. Those who say that job security is perhaps overrated and like Usha's making the point here, often counterproductive.
When the recession happened, there were people who were working so hard and very efficient, but they were all fired. So what job security did they have? And so many people got fired at that point of time. So what peace of mind do you work with then? Plus in a government job, whatever might be the situation in the economy, you have to work for a certain time, you get paid and you are secure that I have this job. But in private sector, that can be true for a normal economic situation, that if you work hard, your skills are good, you will not be fired. But when you consider the economic turns, you may be fired any time. There is no surety about that. And a person who has been fired will know better about it than us.
No, I don't doubt when you get fired, it is a bad time for you. But what the lessons many people learned when they were fired, and many came to me when we were doing some counseling, many of them felt, this is a good time to retrain. They went back into training and said, can I retrain? They also had the experience of what they'd done, which enabled them to look anew at what they could do. And third, they had enough put by that they could actually say, this is actually good for me to take a break, look at what can I do and look at something in the future. I'm not saying it's an ideal situation.
Right.
I don't doubt it. It is difficult. And for a large number of people, it can be tough. But I think what is important is to look at what skills have I built up that will enable me to go into maybe looking at other opportunities.
Right.
And when I look at a developing country like India, where we have so many opportunities, I think we are losing a large part of good talent going into jobs which they may not be suitable for. Because that's the other thing. It's a very generalist kind of job that you do in government.
Right.
You do not take, like somebody who may join the civil services, they come from backgrounds like doctors and engineers who never get to use their technical skills or their medical skills that they've learnt. Whereas if you can use them in the private sector, you actually use the skills that you've developed for.
Right.
So there are various things that can be said. And I think this is the era when I believe we really should promote the private sector and encourage more young people to go in and use their talents efficiently. I don't think government makes very efficient use of individual talent.
Right. Anushka, respond to this. There are lots of people who sort of been writing in to say, there are still families who say sarkari naukri is the best naukri.
Yeah.
So that's, of course, a mindset that we have, and breaking away from it, I guess, will take its own sweet time. But there are, of course, all those youngsters like you are standing up and saying, no, a private job works better for me. How do you counter that?
A private job, you get so much paid. You can save a lot from a private job. You can save half of the money. And the notion that go for government jobs by parents is just because you get a better job security. But and also you get a lot of privileges, like whether it be for travel and all, you get a lot of privileges. But now families do think that private, because they get a lot of money paid. So nowadays families do think that private sector
remuneration sort of makes up for a lot of work.
Exactly.
Right. Also, Smriti, I want to ask you, lots of people we know when we were researching this topic said that the good thing about the private sector, and there were lots of good things said about the government sector also, let me quickly clarify, but the good thing about the private sector, they said, was that it really rewards merit. So when you sort of talk about a sarkari naukri, a government job, is that ever a concern that, it's not always, it doesn't sort of reward merit or doesn't encourage people with merit, doesn't encourage talent in the same way?
See, it depends upon the very section of the governance you're asking about. First of all, corruption has its deep roots into it. So efficient people are not very well rewarded. That's something we have to look into. And efficient people are simply thrown away from the government jobs. That is something we are, as citizens, responsible for, the people who are in corruption. And see, according to, if you're talking about merit, my father is in police. So the people in police, so people who solve cases fast, who have caught a lot of thieves and So they are very much, their efforts are appreciated by the Haryana government, and then they are actually awarded certain trophies on the national level also. And that is not just with the police sector, that is with the other sectors too. If you're working very well enough, it's not that a lot of people are appreciated, but the very, very efficient ones, they appreciated very much, and they were given awards and a very less amount of, monetary incentives if we consider. So there's not a lack of monetary appreciation in the government sector. You have to be very efficient enough in order to claim it.
Right.
I would tend to agree. There is a lot of...
and perhaps it can be on a larger scale.
On a larger scale, yes, definitely. And there's no doubt that they also get the best people. I mean, especially if you look at the specific services like the civil services, where it's so competitive that you're really getting the top level of the cream of people and students. But the numbers are so small that very often I feel for many students who are trying to get into government, the competitiveness of the whole selection system is so acute. To get into a government job requires many, many years of study put in, and then at the end of it, you may not qualify, even though you may be the most meritorious of the students, because the selection process is so difficult and the numbers are so small that they actually select. So, when about 3-4 lakhs that sit for a competitive exam and only 700-800 to 1,000 are selected to 32 civil services, that is, a very, very small number.
Back to perhaps just the cream or the best again.
Then get in. But, for many who are trying, what happens, and I always say, always have a fallback option. So if you're looking for a government job, I would say, look at alternatives so that even if that doesn't work out, you have some other way of alternatives. And I don't know, with private jobs, there are many levels of jobs. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah.
Are there different kinds of jobs that would give you those opportunities?
Yeah, as you said, you said it's very competitive. The government jobs are very competitive. You need a lot of hard work for this. But getting into an IM for MBA is
also
equally competitive.
Very good. Yes, of course.
To get into that, you have to work hard and to get in there. So I don't believe there's equal hard work that you have to put in for the private sector.
I agree.
That's an important point. I'm running out of time, but Smriti, quickly, the one reason of all that we have mentioned, the one reason why you believe you would opt for a government job.
Job security.
Job security. Okay. And Anushka, should I?
Higher paid salaries.
Right.
Yeah, you can save a lot. If you have a security of the job, then you have a higher salary too in the private sector.
Right.
So even in the recession, that would help.
Right. So you're saying even that you don't have a job security, it's offset by the fact that you're paid.
You have your talent.
In your opinion, a lot more.
You have your talent. You can apply for other jobs too.
Right.
I think finally
it does.
There's a need for both. There's within a country like this, and both could learn a lot
from each other.
In terms of, I think the government jobs need to be not just security, the merit basis has to be there.
Right.
Because everybody works for a certain satisfaction in what you do. While you do get awards, but that is only at certain levels.
Right.
For the regular worker, they require some satisfaction from what they do.
And that sarkari shouldn't be a bad word or sort of,
And the private sector can enhance the security that, people can get within the kind of job. So I think there's something to be said for both, but...
Right, well,
would you say
go ahead, Smriti, I'll get you to wrap it for us.
So I believe, considering the fact there are less jobs in government sector, see, the government has to work in this domain. It has to create more and more jobs. When we consider teaching thing, so we say there is a dearth of good teachers in the government primary schools, but then teachers are hired on temporary basis. Why not actually, provide them proper tenure for working, so that more and more people get involved into it. Teaching is such a noble profession. And again,
this is your question for the government, I would
yes,
imagine.
this is a question for the government. Plus one more thing. See, if you're working on high government posts, like there are a lot of civil services people who again then go into planning commissions and a lot of other committees which are, chaired on, which are there on national level.
Right.
So That itself
That's
is a
again
good.
sort of, you're saying an incentive.
Incentive,
Eventually, if you put in that many
yes.
years of service, I would imagine
Exactly.
the planning commission
If you're efficient
would
enough,
take.
you've served your tenure
So you're
well.
saying that again merit will be rewarded.
Yes, it will.
Well, that's of course the debate. It's not going anywhere in a hurry. But you've heard from Smriti, you've heard from Anushka, and you've also heard from Usha trying to help us navigate this debate, as it were. Well, we're slipping into a quick break now. We're back with lots more. Don't go away, and thank you all for being part of the program today.